Hello, Fáilte Shock, and welcome to episode 27 of the Shortgrass, the Kildare Nationalist sports podcast, where each week we dissect the things that are sporting in Kildare with particular emphasis on the GAA. I'm Pat Costello, and joining me this week are Ger McNally, Richard Cummins, and Tommy O'Connell, and we're all decked out in our Ricky Whelan menswear outfits indeed. At the outset, a little bit of sad news. I suppose we have to extend our sympathies to the Frisbee family. And in particular the sons Theo and Fionn on the death of their mum and dad, Brian and Grace, and that horrific accident down in Waterford last weekend. And we extend our sympathies to the family and friends and neighbours indeed, and also for the clubs in Naas and Eadstown. And also we want to extend our sympathies to Fergus McFadden, the great Suncroft man indeed, former Irish Leinster and Irish international player, on the death of his dad as well, Yeshje Gorov Anamaka Jeelish. Okay, lads, looking back, it was a bit of the curate's egg, I suppose. We were all buoyant last week. Things didn't go quite according to plan. Some good performances, some bad performances, some defeats. Let's start a little bit positive, I suppose you might say. And the hurlers entertained the 2024 All-Ireland champions, Clare, in round 3, was it? Or was it round 4 of the National Hurling League Division 1B? And if there are moral victories, this is a moral victory. But I think it was, Richard, it was more than a moral victory. It was a fantastic performance. But for maybe a few bit of wayward shooting, it could have been a lot closer.
Yeah, it was. And I keep having to remind myself we didn't win that game, actually. You mentioned it there as a moral victory. I suppose the question was, like, I know we beat Antrim really well, but Clare obviously are a cut above Antrim in terms of standings, and we had lost by 15 points to Dublin in the opening round. So the big question was, could we kind of close that gap? Could we truly compete with someone of Clare's standing? And I think by and large we did. It was a really confident, committed, skillful performance for like the guts of 55 minutes. Not surprising that Clare would pull away, I suppose, in the second half. You were kind of always expecting that they would, but and Kildare got a bit wayward in terms of shooting wides in the second half, maybe got a bit tired, and all it took kind of was Kildare maybe to drop off 5% and Clare to up at 5%, which they clearly did as well. But it was one hell of a tussle. A great advertisement for hurling and for Kildare hurling, and it was certainly one of the best occasions I've been at as a Kildare hurling fan for years, if not decades.
Yeah, despite the conditions. And Ger, look at the scoreline: 27 points for Clare, but 3 goals and 14 points for Kildare, and another. Well, 3 great goals as well, including Jack's one at the very end where he planted a 21-yard free to the back of the net. But two previous goals were quite good. And we were talking last week, if Kildare didn't concede goals earlier on. Kildare didn't concede, but they scored goals early on. You were on co-comms with Seamus.
Yeah, and especially the second goal, I thought was a lovely move right through the heart of the Clare defence. But I suppose that the first goal kind of epitomised the Kildare performance in the way that the pressure was put on the Clare backs. They weren't able to clear the ball handily up the field. The pass was intercepted by Colin McCabe. And then the important thing when you've counted a mistake of the opposing defence is to then complete the punishment. And Cahill did it very nicely indeed with a beautiful shot into the back of the net. And for Kildare to be ahead at half time, probably justified, I would have thought. Maybe even deserved to be a point or two more than just the 2 points that they were ahead of the break. I suppose Clare obviously had a couple of purple patches. They had 4 points in a row, and Kildare actually really responded nicely to that as well. But then it was 6 or 7 points in a row, then just either side of the arrow mark to kind of saw Clare pull away. But just a fabulous Kildare performance, and they didn't take a backward step, and they worked ever so hard, and they matched Clare in a lot of departments. Obviously, the magnificent Tony Kelly was on display, and Kildare held him to a reasonable amount, and he still ended up with 8 points from play, including an absolute unbelievable score from the left-hand sideline in the second half. Was one that stands out in the memory. But overall, just an immense amount of pride in that Kildare performance, because to say, as I think Brian Dowling noted, the year that Clare won the All-Ireland back in 24, Kildare were winning at Christy Ring. He said they were struggling to win at Christy Ring. I don't think that was quite true. I think Kildare skated the way through the Christy Ring that year, but still, obviously, a massive gulf at that stage, less than, was it 2.5 years ago, and now for Kildare to be able to go toe-to-toe over a full 70 minutes with a side like Clare just, again, emphasises kind of what we've been saying for so long, just the distance this team has travelled in a relatively short space of time.
Yeah, Tommy, conditions were horrific on the pitch. They weren't much better on the terraces, but obviously the performances would have lightened that load, you might say.
Yeah, it was, and it was very rare. I feel outnumbered on the terraces in St. Connell's Park, and they brought some amount of support. It was brilliant to see. You kind of get a little insight into how passionate these followers are of hurling counties that we wouldn't come up against that often. And they were those Clare boys. They were worried at halftime. The fans, you could hear them mumbling and grumbling and giving out. Now a few of them you could overhear as well, kind of saying, "Jesus, fair play to Kildare for the intensity." I kept hearing people talking about that, and it was very similar to that Antrim game where if a Clare lad stumbled on the ball or didn't get it up, if he mistimed it by a half a second, Kildare were on him. They didn't give them a minute, and that's so important at this level. It really is. It's just that work rate. As you said, Pat, it was just that period where Clare kind of let loose a little bit. Yeah. But then, for Kildare to still dig in all the way to the very end and to get that, and I was so glad. I texted the lads to say that last goal went in, because they deserved that scoreline. Yeah. They deserved to be that close. There was a lot of missed efforts. It could have been a lot closer. But at the end, I didn't want people looking at the score around the country and thinking, sure, that was 2-14, 27. Exactly. People needed to understand that this was an excellent Kildare performance. Clare only took the lead in the 48 minutes, so it was great stuff. It was great, Pat. It was a very proud night. Genuinely, you're watching it with great pride, and fair play to everybody involved.
Yeah, and in fairness, Richard, it wasn't that Clare played below par. Kildare played the way they have been playing for the last couple of matches, really. And
they did, and I really liked the attitude as much as anything. There was no fear. There was, and probably the likes of Cian Boran maybe exemplified it. Like when he got that ball in defence, like his first thought was, "I'm going to beat a man," and his second thought was, "I'm going to beat a second man." Like he was driving out of defence. Like the likes of Colin McCabe were doing the same. Like as soon as they got that ball in the hands, they were beating a Clare man, and there was no fear. Yeah. There was no real difference, which we've seen maybe with Kildare a little bit in the past, but there was no difference in sort of strength and conditioning or size. This was a physical performance. It's a team that's well built physically now as well. Like I know we're close to full strength at this stage, unlike say the footballers, but
sure.
They're serious men, and the other thing that struck me was that the Clare fans got so into it. Like they were probably coming up here expecting a fairly run-of-the-mill game, but same as you, Tommy, even on the stand side, like they were so into it. You could tell they knew they were in one hell of a game here. And, if that was us and we were the favourites like that, and we've been through a few of these occasions on the football side in the past where, the likes of Carlo or Wicklow put it up to us like, there's a fear goes through you, like this is going to be a major embarrassment, but they were so into it, they could see like this was going to be a fantastic game, and it was.
Absolutely. Well, it's shown that Kildare deserve to be in Division 1B at least. Ger, great to see David Qualter back. The early injury to Maurice Curtin, that probably disrupted things a little bit.
Yeah, and especially because Maurice was coming in, having played so well in the previous game against Antrim, and that definitely was a loss, and he kind of made his impact known straight away when he came back on. Then he got a superb point with his first touch after re-entering the game, and I think Brian Dowling again kind of intimated that there may be a further issue with that eye as well, that it may be after being stitched up in the dressing room, that it might have opened up again in the second half and caused some bother through that. So yeah, look, it certainly wasn't ideal, although James Dolan came in as well and he's done well. But yeah, overall, fantastic to see David Qualter back. He scored 3 points in play. I wonder, will he assume free taking duties now, maybe going forward? Jack, we were kind of said that the man who is in form, kind of holds on to that role. And Jack was absolutely flawless against Antrim in the previous game and did okay in the first half. I thought did alright, although there was one off the post that probably he should have scored. But in the second half, then there were a couple of misses, and I think Walter eventually took one himself. But Walter was so good in the freeze last year through the McDonagh Cup. I wonder now will that's role swap as well. But also as well, Richie Hogan as well. I think he could be a key defender as well. And it does potentially, it offers the option maybe to Ryan Bourne potentially would maybe venture at the field if Richie Hogan was to come back in as a fullback there, as he played so well through the McDonagh Cup as well. So he's had a really tough time, with injuries with Meath and then at the start of the year as well. So good to see him back, and Kildare will need these options going forward. And just have to mention Conan Bourne as well, because it's incredible that he's been able to play the full game for the last 2 matches now for Kildare, such a high level, having been out for almost 18 months. And to complete 75 minutes there against Clare and certainly play his role and hold his own was really encouraging. And I think he's got even more improvement to come. I think as he gets more game time under his belt, he's going to be an even bigger asset for Clare going forward.
Yeah, I suppose having Quarter back as well, Tommy, it'll give an opportunity for maybe to share the free taking duties with Jack and take a bit of pressure off Jack, because not only is he there as a free taker, but he does a huge amount of work around the field now, particularly this year where he's playing more out the field than maybe in the corner or full forward that he has done in the past.
Yeah, I am. It might be kind of a thing where it's the other night it was kind of told Jack's on the freeze and that's it. I thought maybe David might have been given one after Jack missed a couple. Like, Jesus, we saw Walter last year, was unbelievable. Like, he was absolutely flawless. So I thought it might have been switched over, but not. But listen, just to get David Quarter back on the field and to look so sharp was just huge, so important for Kildare. Have him back, we can't talk high enough about how much a boost that's going to be going into 3 huge games. It's great to see him back.
Yeah, perfect cue into you, Ger. All will come to naught over the last couple of games. Will come to naught unless Leitrim, Fontenoy, and Down on Sunday or Saturday. Is it Sunday or Saturday? I can't remember.
Sunday.
Sunday, of course. There was talk of it might be 2 o'clock rather than 1, but at the moment it's at 1 o'clock. But all will come to naught unless there's a performance and a victory up in Leitrim on Sunday afternoon, Ger.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I don't think the performance really matters at all. Obviously, it matters in terms of getting the result, but I think the result is far outweighs the performance. We can talk about performance in a moral victory over Clare, but that certainly won't be the case next week, because it's all about the results on Sunday. And that is the one kind of nagging thing that I have in the back of my mind, kind of going into that Clare game. I was thinking that the worst outcome would be, a really good performance for Kildare and absolutely run themselves into the ground so much that would have an impact the following week. But look, there's no real reason for that to happen. This is the Kildare side playing with huge confidence. They're extremely fit, and there were no kind of new injuries bar that cut to Moore's Curtin's eye that we're aware of anyway. So look, there's absolutely no reason that Kildare should not go up that road with huge confidence. And if they play anywhere near the level that they have over the last couple of games against Antrim and Clare, then they'll be surely good enough, I would imagine, to beat Down. It'll be interesting to see the impact. I suppose it's an intangible, so it's very hard to kind of get a finger on it. But Down being moved out of the ground in Ballycran as well, obviously the pitch up there. With the weather not able to host Sunday's game, so it's a change of venue, and it just gets them out a little bit of their comfort zone, because Ballycran, even in the back of your mind going up there, sure as a player, it's a tough place to go. I think Richard likened it to the kind of famous old Premier League saying is, could you do it in Stoke on a wet Tuesday evening? I think that's the Ballycran is the hurling version of that going up there. It's a really tough test, and the fact that the game is moved out of there, I think has to be a very slight advantage to Clare. So it's not going to be the winning or losing of the game, but I think it will take something away from Down. But again, that's only a side issue. This is all about Kildare, and I say if they can get anywhere near the performance of the last couple of games, I think they should be enough to win this year's tie.
Yeah, down at the bottom with minus 41 of a points difference. Obviously, the confidence can't be high, but Richard, they seem to be able to change things around when they do play Kildare. But Kildare are playing with confidence at the moment, and the performance levels are high. You can't see a Dowling team dropping that sort of intensity, really.
No, I think that's one of the standout things under Brian Dowling is they go out and give like a 90, at least 90% performance pretty much every week. Maybe the Dublin game, I actually didn't see much of that myself, but
yeah,
it sounded like maybe they dropped a little bit off their best for that particular game.
I think the wide count was a cheer for them in that particular one as well, so it could have been closer, but for the wide count.
Yeah, exactly. But in terms of down, I'd always be wary. I was delighted to hear it's moved out of Ballycran just to further that point. I don't know how often they'd play in Leitrim Fontenoys now, or how familiar they'd be with it, but certainly Down would prefer to be playing in Ballycran. I think illustrating that they'd lost by 29 points to Clare.
Yeah.
But they actually only lost by 2 points to Wexford in Ballycran, in their only game in Ballycran. So, that shows you what they can do, and they can be a little bit inconsistent like that Down, so they can be unpredictable. I think they probably haven't advanced on the team that they were last year by all accounts, whereas Kildare I think have, and we showed that in the McDonagh Cup when we beat them. And I'm glad at least that we have that win over them since the 2 defeats in the league last year to them. But we have to be wary going up there, and I think the good thing is we are pre-warned. So I think Brian Dowling and team will be pre-warned, and I'd expect Kildare to win that.
But the bottom line, Jerry, is that Kildare can't take this one for granted. They have to go there as if they're playing the All-Ireland Championship really.
Yeah, that's absolutely the key message. I think that Brian Dowling will absolutely ram home that they have to treat Down the same way as they would treat Clare. And look, I absolutely have no doubt that the players will do that. But we can't get carried away about Kildare status. It's all well and good having a really good competitive game against Clare, and we spoke about the pride that we would have felt as people who've watched Kildare Hurling down through the years, and I'm sure there's people far more involved in Kildare Hurling than us that would have got immense pride out of that. But the bread and butter of this division is those 3 games really against Antrim, Down, and Carlow. Kildare were superb in the first one against Antrim. They need to be the same again now against Down, and that would lift all the pressure, I suppose, certainly from their shoulders, going into that game against Carlow. And they obviously had a bit of a reverse there against Antrim last weekend, Carlow. So that game against Kildare, they're home to Clare this weekend. That game against Kildare could be an absolute huge one from their point of view. We don't want to be involved in that dogfight going into that game. A win against Down would alleviate all the pressure for Kildare going into that match, whereas a defeat that would make that kind of almost feel like an All-Ireland final really going in against Carlow. So it's a big game on Sunday against Down. We could do ourselves a big favour there by winning that one.
Yeah,
I think that Antrim Carlow result just gives you an example of a team that's got their backs to the wall in a relegation fight, playing at home, and they came out fighting, and they had a brilliant win against Carlow. What was it, 12 points or something? So
absolutely. Ran away with it. Yeah.
Down in that
close to the end.
now.
It was only close to the end that Antrim pulled away, though, as far as I can recall.
Yeah, but still, it was a good old margin, and they were ahead for most of it.
They were.
And went into that, as we know, on the back of a 10-point defeat to Kildare. So
I think home advantage has been key on. Sorry, Richard, for cutting across. I think home advantage has been key there in some of those games. You mentioned Down's performance against Wexford. Carlow beat Down at home.
There's the graphics from Tom. There's the graphics from Tommy of the League Division 1B. It's Clare on top, 4 wins from 4 games. Then Wexford on 7, Dublin on 3 points, Kildare on 2 points in 4th place, and then beneath that Antrim, Carlow, and down on the bottom on no points. So it's that match is in Leitrim Fontenoys on Sunday, Down versus Kildare. And just keep an eye out for the time. At the moment, it's scheduled for 1 o'clock, but there are suggestions that because of it's closer to Kildare than maybe Ballycran was, it might be moved to 1:30 or 2 o'clock. At the moment, the throw-in is at 1 o'clock. So that's one part of the ball and stick. Tommy, a good start to the Kamogi League for Rob O'Neill's team. They didn't get to play the previous week because of the match against Roscommon was postponed. That match is now to be played, I think, on the 14th of March. But a good start. They won on a scoreline of 16 points to 1-1, and a good start for Rob O'Neill. Good to see a lot of the, I suppose, experienced players and the good players in the county back playing for the county.
Yeah, it was important to get that up, get that on the board. Originally set for Auckland. I think I don't know whether we spoke about it last week about being in Auckland, then it was at the last minute switch to Mangar Park. So kind of keeps consistency with the odd start to the administration point of view. So I'd say Kildare probably frustrated themselves, and they're looking for information from different places and not getting it. But to get that win and to only concede 1-1 pass, vitally important. You know, see Rebecca McDermott scoring 4 points, Niamh Martel Rebecca McDermott scoring 6 points, Niamh Martel 4 points. All these girls, you know, back in the fold. Ali McGrath as well from Meath with 2 points. You know, it's just like, but again, to score 16 points, kind of that there's a lot of confidence we see in those conditions.
Yeah.
And it's a confident kind of a score line as well. If you're dominating the team and conditions are so bad that it's difficult to work the ball in to try to fashion goals. If you can just get the shots off early, it's just a good start. It's such a good start. There's the dog. There's the dog after knocking over the dinner anyway. It's
that's he has come home again.
It's but again, like with Armagh, with the Armagh game coming up at the weekend, you know, that's like the Armagh and then Tyrone obviously the last one. They're looking to pick up a win in Roscommon. Hopefully that match goes ahead on the 14th of March. But that's a big one now this weekend.
You know, to get in. In the past, Kildare Armagh games, Armagh have been much the stronger early on, particularly in Joe Quaid's time. But I think the last time they met, it was much closer. But Armagh are a serious side, so this is a real test for the Kamogi team on Sunday. Tommy, on Saturday,
they need to take advantage. Yeah, and they need to take advantage. Like if you look at that Wicklow game being moved to Mangar Park, and then we're in Hawkfield again this weekend. The Roscommon game will more likely be in Ballyforan. And then they're home against Tyrone in the last game. Jeez, there aren't many league campaigns in any sport that you're going to get nearly all home games.
Yeah.
You know, they really need to, like that says Kildare venue. I'm presuming it's going to be Hawkfield. I think maybe if the weather wasn't as bad, I think they might have had their eye on the possibility of a Conless Park game if they were able to move it around. But again, that's highly doubtful. I think Kamogi are fairly aligned with the likes of the ladies and the GA to move their matches to Mangar Park. So yeah, listen, it's a great start for them, and hopefully it continues.
Absolutely, yeah. That match is on Saturday. Kildare versus Armagh in round 3 of the Central Camogie League Division 3A. Kildare versus Armagh, and that's at 2:00 throw in. That's where the good news nearly ends, I suppose, at this stage. Now we start to talk a little bit differently. Cavan 16 points, Kildare 13 points. Ger, discuss. This is honours leaving cert.
And take that smile off your face, Pat Costello, now when you're reading out that result there.
I'm a neutral.
Look, it was hugely disappointing. And I think the most disappointing aspect, without being disrespectful at all to Cavan, is that Cavan didn't have to be very good to beat Kildare. And in fact, you know, it was a really poor quality game, I think, for the vast majority of it, certainly in the first half. 5 points apiece. It was a string of wides, a string of poor shots at both ends. But Cavan were able to rise themselves from that better than Kildare in the second half. The introduction of Gerard McKiernan around the centre of the field, I thought was absolutely key for Cavan. It was a sort of strange thing because we were told afterwards that it's a tactical thing. They brought him on with about 30 seconds left in the first half, but he went on to have a big impact on the game in the second half as Cavan completely dominated Kildare around the centre of the field. And it was just really frustrating for Kildare that I think if Kildare had been to the level that they had been against Derry in the previous game, I think Kildare would have been more good enough to win that game. But just for whatever reason, Kildare were lackluster right across the field from the very first whistle and barely raised themselves out of that at all right throughout the game. And you could just sense the game drifting away from Kildare as it headed into the last 20 minutes. And even at that, I think the more the substitutions were made, the less shape Kildare had. It looked kind of a bit ragged by the end and a bit disorganised, but with players coming on in different positions, and none of the subs really had a huge impact. And anything that Brian Flanagan tried just on the day, I suppose it was one of those days when anything that Kildare did, it just didn't work. And unfortunately, it's a really damaging defeat that puts a lot of pressure on the remaining games now.
Absolutely, and to paraphrase the song, Richard, frustration once again.
Yeah, it was. I was a bit worried about it going up with obviously Alex out, and wondering about there was talk of Feely being out a couple of days beforehand, really. So that sounded like that was going to happen, and really they're probably our two most important players, I'd say, at the moment. So to go up there without those two, and then just between the weather and just everything went wrong, and I'm sure everyone's had those days. Anyone who's played any sort of sport has had days where just, no matter how well prepared you think you are, just nothing goes right for you. And it just unfortunately happened to kind of 13, 14 different players on the Kildare team, I'd say. And then, we do have some inherent problem areas that I suppose we couldn't gloss over. And we couldn't, because we didn't have the resources and no one was playing well, and Alex and Kevin weren't there, the midfield problem that we saw against Derry, where we struggled for primary possession and secondary possession in terms of winning the breaking ball, was evident again. So that's something that really needs to be addressed. And I think it is two different issues. I think it's winning the kick out directly if we can. I don't think we're as strong physically in midfield as some other teams are. And I just don't think we're getting to that breaking ball. Like, we've not got the hunger around the break the last two games that I'm sure Flano is looking for. And that's an issue. And particularly in the modern game, that's going to be a big issue. Because possession is 9/10 of the law, as Brian said afterwards himself.
Absolutely.
He had all the stats in terms of how many scores, how many attacks come off possessions, how many scores come off those. So it is a big issue.
And Tommy, how much would you say of a disruption was the absence of Alex, of Kevin, and indeed of Ryan Burke? Because it had been more or less a settled Kildare team in the 4 or 5 matches between the O'Byrne Cup and the 3 matches before that in the league. How much of a disruption were those three absences were?
Yeah, it wasn't ideal, and it was something that we were able to say that we're probably missing our best all-around player and our consistent cornerback and our captain. But at the same time, it wasn't really, in my own eyes anyway, it wasn't down to that, and it wasn't down to disruption. I don't think this team, considering who the manager and the coaches are, I don't think this team would be allowed to be disrupted like that. They plan for different scenarios, they plan for different injuries and that as well. So it's a fair point that might have, but like they knew they would have been preparing without Alex anyway. So that's how they would have been prepared. If we could just presume you have to presume his red card isn't getting rescinded, and then when it's not, you just continue on. But the performance was one of the worst I've seen in a couple of years, and I echo what Richard said. It was just the lack of being able to get your hand on the ball around the middle of the field, and that had nothing to do with a high flying Kevin Feely, not being there. Like, Kevin is brilliant at catching the ball high in the air, and he's our best midfielder by a country mile. But once that ball comes down and hits the ground, do you have your lads absolutely scrubbing for this ball on the ground? How many times did the ball hit and it was toe poked out the side of a scrum somewhere, and it was a Cavan lad that was on the end of it? Or a ball would go down and a Kildare lad would come up with it and it'd pop out of his hands, and it was a Cavan lad that scooped it up. And I think Flanagan alluded to this as well in his interviews afterwards, that there was so many times that the ball was turned over, popped out of hands. That ball, this is why I really wanted James McGrath to get back as quickly as possible. He's really good at that kind of stuff. You get in, once you get primary possession in your hand, that's not getting popped out. You're digging in, you're getting the ball out quickly, you have support around you, but you have to want it. Now, I don't know what's going on Sunday. It was very heavy legged at times, and the pitch was very heavy. But they just, as Brian Flanagan said afterwards, they just never got into a rhythm at all. And that came down from losing consistent ball. It was, at one stage, Pat, I couldn't remember the last time we had actually won the ball and started the attack. Cavan were that dominant in midfield.
Yeah, what has happened here? Because previously we've been talked about the kickouts from Cian Burke. They were pinpoint, they were picked up by the midfielders, by Brian McLaughlin or whatever. But certainly in the last 2 games and on Sunday, that didn't happen. But as you all keep saying, the piggery, as Geezer talked about it, where you have to get down there and dirty for the second ball, that wasn't being picked up either.
Yeah, I suppose it's a bit different. Teams are still getting used to it. There's been a big change in terms of new rules over the last 12 months or so, and it is still something that teams are getting to grips with. And obviously, Kildare haven't. I'm kind of reluctant to say the hungrier or the team with the more desire was the one that were winning the ball on Sunday. But that's kind of what it felt like. It's not a skill, or it is a skill. It can be taught and everybody else, and sure they practice on it. But the heart and the want and desire to go and win that ball when it's on the ground, you either have that on the day, you don't. And we've seen these Kildare players have it in the past, so it's not something that's not in them. And somebody's referencing there, the likes of James McGrath and other guys around the middle third have shown over the past that they really can get down and win that dirty ball. But for whatever reason, on Sunday, they were miles off it, and really, really miles on, particularly in the second half. I mean, Kildare went 3 points ahead within 90 seconds of the second half, and you thought that they were in a really good position. But then after that, you just really lost away. And midfield is an area that's a bit of concern as well. I think Brendan Gibbons put in a big shift, but I think definitely on a very heavy pitch, he kind of ran out of legs a bit. But there was no real options on the bench with Feely not there. And then also Darren Mangan, we believe, has an injury as well, a hamstring injury, that he would have been maybe one of the backup options there as well. So after that, we're really tilling the ground for pure midfielders. Callum Bolton, I would suggest, probably is a wing forward, maybe by trade, and then maybe as a first choice position. So even he is maybe slightly out of position, although it's a position that he would have played an awful lot in and is well capable of playing there. But the key was, I don't think that we were able to bring on any changes then as well, just to freshen things up in that second half, and not even a reflection of performances. I think in general around the middle third, you'd always be looking to get on some fresh legs there for the last 20 minutes or so, and just to have that impact and bring on a fresh bit of burst of energy. But Kildare don't have that option now with midfield, and it's maybe something that we have to look at, because it's certainly a problem with just lack of numbers.
So Richard, just to throw one out there, if he was available, if he was fit, would there be a case of saying, make a call to Aaron Masterson?
I don't think you'd do that at this point. I think Aaron took himself off the panel. I don't know what his circumstances are behind that, but if he was there, he'd have been certainly a good option. But it's not all about winning that primary ball again. It's how many of them are actually caught clean. Like a lot of them are caught, or possession is gained on the ground on the breaking ball. So it's not just about that. It's a combination of things, and keepers get an awful time on it as well. If we're not winning more than 50% of possession, it's all down to the keeper, but it's not clearly. Some of it will be, and I think some of it was probably at the weekend, as it will always be. But we did start to kick short when we could later on, short and medium, and that had some slightly more positive impact. But to me, someone who I think can really come into his own in that position longer term is probably Colm Dalton when he's available. But again, he's not 6'5". He's not going to necessarily win the primary ball, but he's someone who's hungry, and when he gets the ball, he'll know what to do with it. The other thing we're missing from midfield is we're not really scoring a lot from midfield. Like Brendan Gibbons has scored, I think, a point in his 19 games for Kildare. Callum Bolton probably doesn't score as much when he's playing midfield as he would further up. So we're missing a lot, and we'll talk about Meath coming up, but it's in sharp contrast to what's coming up on Saturday night. It's a problem area. That I think, and the runs from deep from halfbacks.
That's been there a while. It's been there
for years, to be honest.
Yeah,
but
it has.
It's not been fixed under the current regime, and it's been very obvious in the last two games. It was very obvious against Westmeath in the Byrne Cup final. It's a problem, and we've got a very young half-back line, and it's not all down to half-back lines either. But that's another issue that needs to be addressed.
Somebody said to me once that Davy Burke's defensive strategy started at number 15. So yes, you're correct there. It's not down the halfback.
But you've got Davy Burke, Brian Flanagan, Aidan O'Rourke, Damien Hendy, all former defenders or defensive coaches. You've got Darrell Flynn, who's one of the best midfielders we've had, that teak tough man. So you've got people with the knowledge there. So hopefully on Saturday night we'll see a start to that being addressed. And let's not forget also the first couple of games we played and the performances we produced in those.
We were told
we can do it.
we were told to preach patience, and that's what was
no,
have to happen.
I wrote that myself.
Absolutely.
I think so. I need to.
We're just pointing out things that other people are saying to us, some of which is which we addressed here in the last couple of matches, Tommy. The first few minutes of the second half against Offaly, against Derry, and again against Cavan on Sunday last, Kildare more or less lost that particular period. That the third quarter, if you want to call it, is a challenging one for Kildare, and they haven't met the challenge. Am I right?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at it, different, like you can say the first quarter, the second half, the third quarter, but other people are saying, Kildare don't come out of the dressing room and they don't start the second half well. Well, they started the second half very well at the weekend. They got James Harris you could see James Harris getting forward a lot more in the second half. He's possibly told to do that. They get in and around that D because he's very good at taking points from distance. He's excellent at taking points from distance. Maybe he was feeling he didn't have that freedom. Suddenly he added in the second half, picked off 2 points. And Ben Lopeman obviously as well, scoring that 2-pointer. And they looked sharp, and they looked like they were getting it in quick. And then obviously Cavan then got to full hold in it. I don't know if I like. It's a really interesting stat, and fair play to Dawn Fowle. Like it looks good, it looks interesting. It is interesting, for people looking out. So that's where the problem is. But you can't really just nail down that. And then at the weekend, whatever way the match is going, all eyes on Kildare now in the third quarter. I don't need to look at it like that, because there's a lot of other things kind of that you would hope to be fixed, because it's going to be a very, very different type of challenge at the weekend, and there's no way we're going to play as bad as we did last week. But Meath are a different animal altogether. So I'd be worried a lot more about the other the other 3 quarters, and then the third quarter included.
Yeah, last one on the Cavan game. You and others, Richard, not that happy with Barry Judge, the referee?
Oh Lord, we seem to be struggling at the moment with referees.
Well, our referees struggling because
I think, to be fair, referees struggling maybe.
Even in the Donegal Armagh match, there was some criticism of a good Kildare man as well.
Yeah, that's true, and we'd regard him as one of the better ones. Look, I mean, if you listen to the crowd in the stand, Cavan weren't particularly happy with the referee for long stretches of that either. Don't know what it was like on the terrace, Tommy, but I think he was a little bit inconsistent, shall we say, even in terms of the advantage rule. It seemed, and this is one of the bugbears of mine, is the fact that it's up to the referee to determine how long advantage lasts, and sometimes it can feel like it's a different rule for one team than the other.
But the one that really, it's up at 10 minutes now, I think, Richard.
Sorry?
I say it's up at 10 minutes now, the advantage.
Yeah, if they're wearing blue, maybe. But the one that really got us all, and I'm perplexed by it all, was the 2-pointer free from Paddy Lynch, which was absolutely crucial in the second half. Like, there was a point in it, and there was handbags in front of the goal mouth between Spillane and the Cavan man. Brian Byrne seemingly perhaps came in as the third man into a melee and got a yellow card as a result of it. But Cavan were in possession, just soloing, passing around 45 meters, and the ref allows them to take a 2-pointer free from around 45 meters. As Ger said, if it was just brought to the edge of the arc, then maybe you'd think it was a closer range free, but he's allowed them to bring it back out to the edge of the arc. But no, he allowed them to take a 2-pointer free from where they were in possession. And I don't know what rule that comes under. And Paddy Lynch himself, to be fair to him, I'd say he asked the referee about 3 times, "Are you sure about this?" before he actually went for it, because I don't think he thought it would count if he went for it. Yeah. And ultimately he got the okay.
That would be an indirect free. Yep.
Yeah, it should have been an indirect free. And I spoke to the referee at local level here, has confirmed that to me as well, that from his perspective when he was at the game.
And was there a case of Cully being? Was there a case of Cully being taken down in possession, or was it Cully or was it Oakman?
Colin Moran probably, was it?
Colin Moran, that's right. Yeah.
3 men on his back.
Well, there was a foul against Owen Lawler as well, I thought.
Owen Lawler in the first half, where he was kind of...
He was, again, the referee had the perfect view of that.
All right,
Look, there were others.
nitpicking.
There were other. To be fair, there were other instances on the Cavan side, but just that 2-point free, I think, was so crucial because it gave them a 3-point advantage.
I think what you're saying is the inconsistency is.
I think that's
we talk about Kildare being inconsistent, but it's the inconsistency of referees that frustrates players and spectators alike. And I think, in fairness, last year referees had a very good year, but this year there seems to be a lot of whether coaches or players are getting a little bit clever with the rules or what, I don't know, but the referees have a bit of a challenging time this year.
Or maybe it's because we're losing a couple of games. You always look at it with
we're looking at other games as well. There is every game seems to have a comment on the referee, which last year it wasn't there at all, as far as I can recall.
Linesmen were just as at fault the weekend, and referees, so don't let them away with either. And have clear hand. Cavan handles the ball on the ground as Kildare were breaking at the end, and he didn't. The linesman saw it. The linesman was looking directly at it because he was looking straight at it and hadn't got the bottle to call it. That was it. He saw it. And because Gibbons was taken down, but it was a bit of legs going everywhere, arms going everywhere. Yeah. But the Cavan man touched it on the ground, and the umpire, assistant referee, whatever he is, hadn't got. And that was Shane Mulhare as well. He's a good referee.
The grass was long. That's the reason. He wasn't on the ground. It was only on the grass. Anyway, let's move on. A big one on Saturday evening. You can't come bigger than that. The last team that played before the old Condolences Park was demolished, and now here they are back in fantastic new, brilliant facilities that is Cedarwood St. Condolences Park. And we'll talk about the pitch in a few moments. But it's Kildare versus Meath at 7:00 on this Saturday evening. Ger, another leaving cert. A question for you. Discuss. It's team 2 versus team 6.
Yeah, it kind of just feels that Meath are maybe just 2 years ahead of Kildare, maybe just in terms of where their team stands. Like, obviously they won the Talton Cup back in 23, and they really have progressed well since then. And we'd hope that Kildare will progress hugely over the next 12 to 24 months as well. And it might be just that Meath are just a little bit more advanced in their plan and just developing their squad as well. And they have some players who are playing really, really well and coming up with magnificent clutch moments. I mean, Jack Flynn was, I think, a key man for them in that Talton Cup final victory against Down a few years ago, and he has been a match winner, I think, in pretty much all their games that they have won this year. So, yeah, they're a formidable outfit, and probably worryingly enough for Kildare. We're talking about issues around the middle of the field. That's probably where a lot of Meath's strengths lie. So that is definitely just something Kildare are going to have to get a handle on and going to be wary of. But at the same time, this is going to be a great occasion. I think it's hopefully, with any luck, it might actually stop raining at some stage, and we might actually get some sort of a decent night for a game of football. And there's going to be a big crowd in the Cedarwood St. Condolences Park. Meath, obviously, after that defeat against Cork, they're probably in a straight shootout now between themselves and Derry to get that second promotion spot as well. So every game is crucial for them. And yeah, Kildare against Meath and which doesn't need any extra spice, but obviously for Meath it's a huge game, and I kind of touched on it earlier on. After that defeat now against Cavan, Kildare are really in the mix when you think it's better for relegation, because Kildare have obviously Meath coming up and against Cork then as well. So the two top teams in the division, you'd have to say Kildare probably have the most difficult run in, and then what could be a potential relegation do or die battle against Louth in the last round. So yeah, Kildare right back in the relegation mix now, and every game is hugely pressurised for Kildare, and the pressure will ramp up if Kildare can't get a results on Saturday night. But yeah, tough test in store. And there's a couple of years ago there, we were probably obviously that game against Meath in Cedarwood St. Condolences Park. Before it was Cedarwood St. Condolences Park, and the last game before the main stand, we were kind of well on top of that stage, but probably rolled to reverse over the last couple of years. And Meath brought through some really good underage players and starting to bear fruit now at senior level. It's a tough test indeed for Kildare on Saturday.
But taking all that into account, Tommy, no matter the form, no matter positions, Kildare Meath games take on, I suppose, a life of their own, and form sometimes goes out the window, and no better sight to urge you on than the green jersey coming onto your own pitch here in Cedarwood St. Condolences Park.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just glad this game isn't in Crow Park, which Meath have obviously have done quite well there. They shrewdly chose it as their home ground, while Port Talton has been done. But yeah, that's exactly it, Pat. I mean, everybody knows that Meath seem like they're ahead of us at the moment. Their players the players that Colm O'Rourke was on the radio this morning, making sure everybody knew this was his team. That he introduced these lads, and that Robbie has brought them on. So I have to respect him for doing that, because in fairness he did. But they were all young lads a couple of years ago, like Kildare lads are now. But the level of conditioning, and you can see it in the matches last year. Like, they all look like they're athletes. They look like they belonged on the big stage last year. I still think that, as you said, a big crowd there in Condolences Park getting on their back. Listen, it's no surprise that Derry fans on a couple of different forums have mentioned how intimidating St. Condolences Park was for them as fans. And that means the players must feel that as well. So if you have Derry coming down feeling intimidated in St. Condolences Park, I would class that as a win, as success, that Derry felt intimidated. And that's what all teams, supporters should feel intimidated, players should feel intimidated. People should not, opposition should not want to go in here. And it's such a weird one, because if you just sit down and think about where Meath are and their last 4 games as well, and obviously they got over the line with last kicks of the game against Louth. They did well against Derry. And then last day they could have beaten Cork as well, but they were beaten by late scores. But you just think in the back of your head, it's still Meath.
Cavan should have beaten them. Cavan should have beaten them.
Yeah, they should have beaten them again, but again, that was Meath.
Yeah,
taking it out at the end. But that was Cavan on a much better pitch as well, and Cavan weren't as brutal as they were last week against us. Well, it's still Meath, and they bottled the Leinster final last year. They were better than Louth. Simple as that. They were better than Louth in the first half. They were dominating the first half, and Louth got a couple of goals. Meath shit themselves. The same in the second half, and let Louth win the easiest Leinster title I'd say they've ever won in their lives. Meath are a better team than Louth. Kildare should have beaten Louth in the semi-final last year. Last week, got a little bit hairy against Cork and got beaten by a late point. And maybe there's a little thing, there's a fragility there. I just think there's something there that if we can get in about these lads, and you can't be intimidated by their physicality, because we've mentioned Jack Flynn, and Richard put up a stat there about how Brendan Gibbons has scored 1 point in his 19 games for Kildare. Like, Jack Flynn has scored 14 or 15 points this year. In this season of the league, 4 2-pointers. You want your midfielders playing, but that, I don't know. I'd be targeting to cut him down to size. Let's get somebody on him. Let's hit him. Let's get the biggest Meath lads.
That's in coaching parlance.
Exactly. Get in and hit them.
Mark them close.
But I really think that there'll be now. I'm very wary of saying this, because for the Cavan match, I was fully convinced. And one thing that I was so disappointed about walking out of Cavan last week, I really thought there'd be a siege mentality.
Yeah.
Alex Byrne's red card wasn't rescinded. Who cares that that's it? They're all against us. We're going to show them. It was the complete opposite last week. I don't think Kildare will be as bad as they were last week at all for the rest of the year, or what competition this year.
Richard, if you have the Banished Door bib on for the weekend, apart from bringing back Alex Byrne and hopefully Alex or Feely is fit, what would you make other changes, or what are you thinking?
I'd certainly, if Colin Dalton is anyway fit, and I'm assuming, and like he was on the bench the last day, I'm assuming the pitch had a big role to play in the fact that he didn't get any minutes that day, because someone coming off a hamstring, you don't throw them out on that pitch. Maybe you could argue the same for Newbridge at the weekend. It's hard to know, Pat, without knowing who's fit. Like, obviously, if Kevin is fit, Alex will obviously come back in. You'd wonder if Colin comes in as well.
Brian Burke.
Eric Irwin didn't play particularly well last week, but he's a player who needs.
Well, he works hard, but he works hard. He works hard.
Yeah, he did, but he's kind of at the age now where you really need him to be kicking more of those opportunities and taking the right options. So that was a bit disappointing, but I'm sure he'll get another go at the weekend. But I think just back to Tommy's point, for me, Meath have a +4 scoring difference there, you'll see. So, it's not just that they kind of collapsed against Louth in the Leinster final. They crawled over the line against Cavan. We saw how Cavan are. They beat us, so maybe we can't talk. Do we really feel like Louth are that much better than us? They nearly beat Meath.
But just going back to that, Richard, maybe we were underestimating Cavan because they ran Cork very close as well. They ran Meath very close. So maybe we underestimated.
All I can go on is what I saw on Sunday. When was it? Sunday.
Yeah.
Like it was something like 21% conversion rate in the first half. I have never seen a team shoot that badly.
I know, yeah.
In terms of percentages. Now they created 10 more chances than we did, but a lot of that was down to us losing possession once we got in the attacking half and not getting to the point of actually getting to take a shot. But I suppose my point is Division 2 is very, very close in terms of the ability of teams.
Yeah.
And in those circumstances, I'm kind of with Tommy. I expect Kildare to go all out for this one, and I'll be very disappointed if they don't, because this team has the potential, from what it's done at underage level, to be different in the sense that they don't collapse. They have a better mentality than Kildare teams of the past, and they go and put it up to teams. So I want to see that. We didn't see it in Cavan, but I want to see that on Saturday night, young and all as they are. And I think if they do that,
even the dog agrees with you.
Meath are a bit schizophrenic. Like, look at the All-Ireland final last year, the semi-final last year. I mean, that was an embarrassment for Meath, I would have thought.
Yeah.
But then they can go and beat Kerry, so we can't run them down that much either. On paper they'll win this game, but thankfully sometimes games are played on very muddy pitches in
won't be on paper on Saturday night. That's for sure. Anyway, Ger, going back to our old friend Geezer, he's alleged to have said that Kildare were always considered to be too nice. Are we going back to that thing again where Kildare, maybe the bit of divilment is not there anymore, and that might be needed for starting on Saturday evening?
Well, I'd say if that's lacking, it's the right men who are on the sideline to instill it into them. I mean, Brian Flanagan certainly didn't lack that as a player. Darrell Flynn didn't lack that as a player. And I mean, we've seen it Davey as well, and Nathan O'Rourke as well. So
Nathan O'Rourke didn't either.
Absolutely not. No. So, I mean, if that is something that those men are sensing that is lacking in the team, that will be rectified very quickly, I would imagine. But yeah, look, Clare, to stay in this division, Kildare certainly need to win at least one of the last 3 games.
Yeah.
Hopefully 5 points would be enough. So, they need a big performance in one of these games, whether it's to beat Meath or, flying high, Cork, go down to Cork, which we believe now maybe we played in Cork you win, which probably even increases the atmosphere and maybe even gives Cork a little bit more of an advantage there rather than playing in the wide open space of Cork Quave, and then the lesser champions at home then in the last round. So there are 3 really tough games, but Kildare have to produce a win and a big performance in at least one of them if they're going to stay in Division 2. So hopefully we can start off on Saturday evening against Meath.
And we talked about it last week, Tommy. Big crowd looked for the hurlers, didn't really materialise, outnumbered quite considerably by Clare, but certainly a big crowd is expected on Saturday evening from Kildare, because we can tell you there will be a big crowd from Meath.
Yeah, there will be a big crowd for Meath. I fully expect us to have a great follow on Saturday night. Then it all comes down to the management of how they're going to manage these crowds, because I don't think many people were at the Hurling last week, but the announcement went out that the stand was full and there were empty sections at the end when the announcement went out. Now again, there could have been people out behind the stand. There could have been a cut-off in numbers of people they knew coming through the gates. But what we saw was, I thought it was quite concerning when you see people from terraces on both sides coming onto the pitch to get onto the stand through the front end entrance, especially at the town end, when people were, or the photographers are, people are coming out that gate, walking in front of the goals as the ball is about to be thrown in. In a national hurling Division 1 league game, ball is about to be thrown in, they're walking in front of the goals, and others are walking behind the goals to get over to get into the stand. So I'm not sure whether maybe it's a case of, sorry, the middle section is blocked, we lose the end sections, or maybe there is a cap of number of people, or need to get the people out of the bar and get them into the stand. But it just wasn't a good look, I thought, my own opinion. But I think there's going to be...
Obviously dangerous as well.
It did not look great having people on the pitch like that. We're giving out with the state of the pitch, and suddenly we have what looked like between 50 and 60 supporters making their way up to the stands. But no, listen, Pat, it's going to be a big crowd. It's going to be a huge crowd there on Saturday night. It's Kildare Meath. It's under lights. Meath are flying. They think they're great. If their feathers up, so they're going to want to come down and see what they can do. Hopefully, our fans will be there to watch us taking down a peg or two.
Absolutely. And obviously there were photographs, Ger, of particular grounds down in Clare for the Clare Wexford Kamogi match, and that's a strange one. Breffni Park, you kept talking that it was quite soft. Are there concerns about Cedral St. Conleth's Park for Saturday night? The deluge that we had here in this part of the country over the last few hours would suggest that there could be struggle. And what are we going to do with Cedral St. Conleth's Park? Because it seems to be a challenge. We know that McMullen made a huge commitment, and fair play to him, that every club in the county would get the opportunity to play during the championship, but it hasn't had a rest, and now it seems to be suffering.
No, and it's probably I suppose a victim of our own success in terms of the club championships and club champions going very well, because the tie we're still playing in a Leinster semi-final. It was the first weekend in December, or the last weekend in November. Salons obviously had a Leinster final there in the middle of December as well. So, I mean, there are plenty of grounds around the country were shut down for 6 weeks there between the kind of November, December into January. So Cedral St. Conleth's Park didn't get the benefit of that, and it's certainly feeling it. And look, it's something that we have been speaking about probably since the end of last year, really. I mean, it's not something that's just cropped up overnight. And even I would say, going back to the development of the stands, where we were kind of conscious of the issues that were in Portlaoise, and obviously with the overhanging stands there, that would that cause similar problems. And unfortunately, it seems to have come to bear. There's so much footfall in around there, the players' entrance. Even going back to last year, obviously presentations of trophies and things like that. So obviously they've had some sort of work there done on the very off the pitch on the sideline in terms of laying down some astroturf there. But just without getting a long break, it's hard to see what can be done. You know, in the space of 7 days with the rain that just keeps falling and falling and falling. It's unfortunately not going to be hugely different, I would imagine, on Saturday evening as it was compared to last week against Clare, when it certainly was an issue. Like when I walked out and then afterwards, and it's it's squelching. There's still water on the pitch. Like even after a full 70-minute game, there it was still so wet. And yeah,
we're told there's great drainage.
Yeah, look, without being an expert or anywhere near it, you have to bow to the experts. But even if you go back to the laying of the pitch, there was, I suppose, an opportunity to utilise the fields that Croke Park grow off-site in Dublin as well, and potentially bring down turf from there. But obviously the decision was made to lay the field directly in Newbridge. I don't know if that's something that they would reflect upon now, and maybe wonder did they do the right thing, because as I said, that issue under the main stand, okay, it's been an incredibly wet winter, and nobody could have foreseen that, but the issue that will be there in terms of when a pitch is frozen and stuff like that, with that main stand covering it, there's always going to be a lack of sunlight there directly. Again, the idea of having the presentation area right in the area where the players are coming out of the tunnel as well is maybe something that should have been looked at too, because it's just decreasing that footfall in around that area of the field. And the presentations of trophies is not a huge issue. It happens 2 or 3 times a year, or certainly in the last few months with in the winter months anyway. But the pitch is far from ideal, and it's going to be on national TV on Saturday as well. And there's going to be people talking about it around the country. And there was one stage we had one of the best pitches in the country and one of the worst stands, and now we have a stand that will match anywhere around the country. But unfortunately, the pitch is way below the desired standard.
Yeah, but this has happened before, Richard. When Lansdowne Road changed to Aviva, they had fierce difficulty with the pitch. When Páirc Uí Chaoimh, they had fierce difficulty with the pitch. Even when I was involved with the Irish team, Croke Park, we had to instruct the players to wear long studs because the pitch was slippy or whatever like that. So somebody has to get to grips with this, and it seems as if serious remedial work will have to be done on Cedral St. Conleth's Park sooner rather than later.
It does look like
what are the consequences of that?
Yeah, and I don't know when the best time of year. Again, not an expert on horticultural matters, but I did notice Cavan actually had obviously patched some of their muddy areas or whatever. Like I know, the issue with them wasn't so much bare patches. It was more just there was no bounce in it. It was more. It was obviously
it is a boggy ground. It is a boggy ground anyway. Yeah.
But they had done something in terms of patching the pitch in the muddy spots. So I don't know if there's something that could be done there. But I think ultimately they're just going to need to bite the bullet, and whether it's during the summer or spring or whatever time is the right time to do it. I think they're just going to have to take it out of action for whatever period of time is necessary. Otherwise, it's never going to be right, is it?
And that's it. And fair play to the Kildare LGFA. They took a quick decision. This was supposed to be more or less a double header on Sunday between Kildare, or Saturday evening between Kildare and Meath in the LGFA match, and Kildare and Meath in the Alliance League as well. But the Kildare LGFA made a very early decision. I think it was on Monday, to move their match to 5 o'clock in Mangard Park. Not as a double header, but close enough to being a double header with the Kamogi. And I know there's been some comments about why when the ladies not play there. Well, I think anybody with a bit of common sense would see that you couldn't play 2 games, no matter whether it's just tiddlywinks or serious games like the 2 Meath Kildare games. You couldn't play 2 games on there in
the ladies might be getting the better of that deal, because obviously the pitch out of Mangard Park is far superior at the moment than the one in Newbridge. And I mean, obviously the crowds is going to be at the respective games, kind of make it a no-brainer in terms of which games played at which venue. But in terms of the pitch, the ladies will actually get the better of that deal. I'm sure that they're probably, when they get out of Mangard Park, will probably enjoy the playing surface there more than the lads will in Collins Park.
Yeah, well, I think
there is a month. There's a month there as well, Pat, between the last game in the league and the Leinster Championship. I think the footballers and the hurlers are both out the 18th and 19th of April.
Yeah.
So there is a period.
There'll be underage matches, so they can't be played there.
They'll have to go on Hawkfield.
Absolutely not. Under no circumstances. Last year it was different. The minors under 20s, you're giving them the chance to play in St. Helens Park. Under no circumstances. And that's hurling and football. It's unfortunate, but they're going to understand this. But that
and ladies football
there,
and Kamogi, and ladies football and Kamogi. And in fairness, we've seen it in other counties where Kamogi or ladies football have to play in all sorts of pitches. But in fairness to the 4 associations, or the 3 associations, and the 4 games, hurling, football, ladies football, and Kamogi, there seems to be a great understanding, and all 3 get their opportunity, or all 4 teams get their opportunity to play at the best pitch available at that particular time, and that's certainly a great cooperation between all concerned in Kildare.
When the Leinster Championship comes around, Pat, I'm talking about the ladies at Leinster Championship, and the All-Ireland Series at the Camogi will be in as well. But that Leinster Championship we saw last year, that Meath game was huge in St. Conleth's Park. It was a fantastic game. Kildare really put up to Meath. But when this comes around, this is when people need to realise. Geez, do you remember last February, March, April? Remember when we, they said we needed to give the pitch a bit of a rest on it? It was because of days like this that we get to actually run out on a better pitch. But I just think, again, that month, it's going to be really interesting to see what they do. Now, the weather, we're hoping, will be somewhat better. It'll definitely be a little bit mild.
Bit of growth. Anyway, a quick run among the 3 of you. Richard, your prediction for the hurlers and the footballers at the weekend?
I have a reasonable degree of confidence in the hurlers winning. Less so on the footballers. If you want me to go with my heart, I'll say Kildare will come out fighting and we'll have a famous victory. I think the head would say you'd expect me to win by 3 or 4 maybe. Okay.
Ger?
Yeah, kind of along similar lines there. As much as you wouldn't like to say the Kildare would be, I'd like to say the Kildare are going to lose, but the one thing about Kildare 100 years is when you're expecting little of them, it's generally when they produce a massive performance, and sometimes it's when they have the pressure of favourites on them that weighs very heavily on them. But yeah, so hopefully the hurlers get a massive win, and I think they're certainly capable of beating down and get a huge win, and that will be a massive achievement to retain. It wouldn't quite be assured, but be a massive step towards retaining status in Division 1B. Footballers, yeah, I go for a hard-fought draw.
Okay, and Tommy, would you do more?
Yeah, well, I will say from our conversations earlier as well, just the hurlers, I'm fully confident that they'll treat the down game the same as they've treated the Clare and Antrim double games. Like, they'll have the same attitude towards it. But that was no fluke down and putting it up to Wexford, and Wexford only beaten. Wexford had to work very, very hard to get that result. I know this match isn't in Ballycran, but it's still not in St. Helens Park. So I would hope that the hurlers would kick on. I gotta hope the weather is better for them, and to win. I think the hurlers will win by 10 points or that. I hope to see the footballers. I think if Kildare get the matchups right, I think when you look at the players that played for Maynooth University this year together, I think from a Meath point of view, you see Brian O'Halloran. Brian O'Halloran has been watching Owen Cully training and playing all year, and they train together. He probably marks them training, so you could see Brian O'Halloran possibly picking up Cully. And then at the other end, like Ryan Burke has been watching Frayne and Kinsella and Duke and all these lads playing for Maynooth. So I think if the Kildare can get the matchups right and shut down that unbelievable forward line that second Meath have, and secondly, if they can demoralise them, I think I can see Meath getting a little bit nervous and the crowd getting on their back and Kildare winning by 4 points.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And in fairness, I think we have a very strong referee. I know you mightn't agree, Richard, but in Sean Horson, he's a very, very strong referee and one of the better referees. He did a great All-Ireland there a few years ago from Tyrone. He's the man in charge. That match throws in at 7 o'clock. That's Kildare versus Meath. And of course, the previous day at the moment, the following day at 1 o'clock, it's Down versus Kildare up in Leitrim, and both games are live on KFM radio, and you can read all about them in the Kildare Nationalist next week as well. One last game to cover, and of course that's the ladies' match, and unfortunately, the same as it has been for the last couple of weeks, you could say, Tommy, they didn't take their goals and they conceded goals, and they were beaten by a Dublin side that were bottom of the pile just before last weekend. And I think Pat Sullivan had to say, as he did the previous week, more or less, look at the conceded goals and didn't take them.
Yeah, that seems to be pretty much it. And I was trying to keep an eye on it on my phone throughout the start of the Kildare of the Cavan match, and I put the phone in my pocket and I said to a lad beside me, I said, I'm going, Kildare beating Dublin, but I'm going to check my phone at the end. And it's just known Dublin, and that bloody pitch up in Balbriggan as well. I'm sure the wind was obviously a huge factor as well by all accounts. Yeah. It was unfortunate the way it came out. They're under a bit of pressure now. Very similar, I think, to the men, where I agree with what Ger said, that Kildare realistically have to get a win. The men obviously have to get one win. We didn't say that. Cavan have to play Offaly. Cavan are going to beat Offaly. Kildare have to get a win in those 3 games, but we've gone past that. I think it's the same. I think I was looking at there earlier. Armagh have quite a tough run in. So if Kildare can possibly pick up a result, be it against Meath, Waterford, or Kerry, that Waterford match, by the way, that fixture has been confirmed for Fairfield, and it's actually moved to 5 p.m. on the 21st of March. It makes me think it might be on television, or streamed, one or the other. But if they can possibly get something, anything, because just to let people know, obviously with that table is 3 points for a win. So, and obviously they'd lose out in the head-to-head with Dublin and Armagh if it was only 2 points. But if Kildare can get a win and Armagh can struggle at all, or possibly even Dublin, there is still hope to get out of this mire that they're in.
That's a big match also on Sunday, because Armagh are playing Dublin in Armagh. So that's a big game as well as far as Kildare are concerned.
You don't need a draw. You don't need a draw in that, Pat.
No, I watched
no draw.
Yeah, I watched them against Cork a couple of weeks ago for RTE, and Cork looked to be in trouble, but they got 2 goals in the second half, and Armagh just couldn't live with them. And obviously, we saw what Kildare and Armagh, what that was like. Kildare had the chances to win that particular game, particularly goals in the second half, and that seems to be the theme running all the way through. So this is a big game for Kildare on Saturday. At 5 o'clock in Mangard Park. Kildare against Meath. We remember the championship match last year when Kildare did everything but win the game, and then they hammered them in the league earlier on. So there's not a lot between the sides, but a little bit of spice in it, because a Kildare man managing the Meath team again.
Yeah, again, it's right. Obviously, Wayne Freeman following on then from Shane McCormick last year, and Wayne was involved in the coaching ticket with Shane for a year there as well. So obviously, he would have known the Meath girls and stepped in there. Yeah, it's a huge game. Like, looking at those fixtures and the last game against Kerry in particular, if they can get a win and have Kerry in their sights going into that last round and make that a do or die game, that would be, I think probably the best that Kildare can hope for at the moment, and would really put them in with an opportunity of staying up. But that would probably mean that this game on Saturday is must win, because going down to Waterford, I know they lost last weekend, but Waterford have been very, very good this year, and they're going to be very difficult on their home patch as well. So I would say really for Kildare to have an opportunity, this one is must win. But Kildare certainly are capable of it. They obviously, the results 3 defeats in a row, but they've been very competitive in those games, and were very competitive against Dublin again. Certainly for large parts of that Armagh game, a win with a real possibility okay, Galway probably took the game away from Kildare in Tuam as well, but Galway can do that to anybody. So no, Kildare have been very, very competitive, and they shouldn't lose heart at this stage. They're competing with the best teams in the country and really going toe to toe with them. And certainly couldn't rule Kildare out yet. It's looking bleak. Certainly, if you look at that league table, 1 point for 4 games. But as we saw with Cavan and the men's side of things as well, sometimes the table can tell a harsh story and maybe not reflect the true kind of nature of performances.
Yeah, and Tommy, apparently against Dublin last weekend, Kildare were very unlucky not to get a penalty. But apparently it was a blatant penalty. Shout! Did you hear that?
Yeah, but I mean, like, there's little moments like this. I mean, we saw the matches that we've seen so far, Pat, as well. They're having moments, and there's no point in dancing around. It's an extremely frustrating game to watch. When they're trying to implement the new rules, when there's a lot of referees who are trying their best to implement the new rules, but it's the pulling and the dragging and what's a foul, what's not a foul. Is there contact now? What constitutes contact in the ladies' game? Are they allowed to bump them when they're taking a quick free? No, they're not. Referee at the Armagh game, they're most certainly fucking not. They did it 7 or 8 times to Clare. But yeah, like it's all the matches. They've been tough losses. But there's just this absolutely is not over yet, and their points difference, even though it's minus 18, is in and around. It's better than Dublin's, and it's in and around Armagh's. If Armagh can start dropping points, if Armagh can start losing games, Dublin lose games, Clare can just pick up one win. You know, genuinely, it really gets it in. And I think confidence. I think that's what this young Kildare is going to need is confidence. You need something to fall their way, and it hasn't fallen their way yet.
Yeah, well, Super Saturday, 2 matches in Mangard Park. As we say, the Kamogi play at 2 o'clock. Then it's the ladies' football team play at 5, and the men's team play at 7. And then on Sunday, up in Leitrim in the county of Down, it's the hurlers who play against Down. 4 important league games as far as Kildare team concerned. We know that the hurling game and the football game are live on KFM radio, and as I said, you can read all about them in the Kildare Nationalist next Tuesday. You can also read about the Kamogi and indeed the ladies' football game. Not sure, Ger, whether they're being covered on KFM. I wasn't talking to Seamus, but I assume both the Kamogi and the ladies' games are being covered on KFM as well. But no doubt we'll hear more about that. So that's the GA covered. Obviously, it's a big weekend for GA because the Congress is on, and the Uachtaráin Tuffa will be selected on Friday night. It would appear that Ger Ryan of Tipperary and Munster might be favourite, although the Leinster man, there are more counties than Leinster, so it'll all depend. Obviously, there's another candidate from Donegal going as well, so that might split the Ulster vote. It's going to be interesting, Ger.
Yeah, for sure. Derek Kent obviously is the Leinster man going forward. I've heard him speaking on a couple of occasions, and he seems an impressive guy. Obviously, has served his time. So it'll be interesting to see what way. But as ever, I suppose it is things. Most of the deals and things done away from the actual vote themselves are probably the most interesting part that we don't get to see. But a lot of politics obviously comes into the side of the GAA at this time of the year.
Yeah, indeed. And just before we go away from GA, of course, 2 big Kamogi finals on at the weekend as well. On Saturday, the Sculwura of Clare, they're playing. They play St. Augustine's of Wexford. That's in Dixborough at 1:30. Being shown live on Clubber TV with yours truly on commentary. And then half an hour earlier than that, also in the county of Kilkenny, St. Wilson's of Selbridge are playing Laurel Hill Secondary School. That's in Johnstown in Kilkenny as well. That's at 1 o'clock. So the very best of luck. You had a big write-up, Chair, this week about the Sculwura Clane team. They're playing in the All-Ireland Post-Primary Championship. I think it's Group D, Section D, and then Section C is St. Wilton's of Selbridge.
Yeah, I don't know much about the Selbridge team, to be honest, but obviously I've done superbly well. But that the Clane side of made their way through Leinster. They've Hazel Mulligan there as part of their coaching squad, who's a fantastic player herself. So the very best of luck to them. These are kind of the days of your lives really as a school child, whether you're camogie, football, whatever you're playing, to get to an All-Ireland final like this is a dream. And just looking at that Clare squad as well, there are a spread of clubs, but the large majority of the squad is made up of Clare players, and that can only benefit the club there as well in the long run as well. And the Clare Camogie club, I'm sure, will be strengthened the next couple of years with these girls going through.
Did I see Anne-Marie Early as one of the coaches as well?
Yes, indeed, yeah. So strong,
Oh,
knowledgeable coaching ticket there as well. Yeah, and it's great, obviously, for teachers to be able to give something back and passing on their incredible experience as well, and obviously a huge benefit to young players coming through like that too.
Yeah, well, the very best of luck to Woolstons of Selbridge and indeed Sculwer of Clane. Both matches live on Clubber TV. As I said, you're truly doing the second game, Sculwer of Clane versus St. Augustine's of Wexford. Looking forward to that one, though. Both those games are on Saturday live on Clubber TV. Ger, moving quickly along, Club Kildare in soccer back in action under 14 level in the League of Ireland.
Yeah, well, all levels there. Yeah, did 5 games there. The way the fixtures are done this nowadays in the underage league is that you play the one club across all your age groups. So it couldn't have been much tougher for them to start off with playing Shamrock Rovers in every age group. So yeah, some big defeats there, but some competitive performance. I think the under 17s in particular put up a good showing, only losing 2-0. I think the under 20s were 0-0 for a long time until going down 5-0 at the end. So yeah, it couldn't have been any more difficult. I suppose the plus side that is that you get those round games out of the way and maybe more competitive games to come there when the target maybe picking up a couple of wins. So that starts at Waterford this weekend, but they won't be any pushovers as well, especially if their 14s hit double figures in one of their games last weekend, so they'll be flying high. So yeah, but good for that team to be up and running again. Yeah, and of course the Ireland's women team, they're in action. The squad was announced during the week. They're in action next Tuesday and next Friday, I think it's, or it's Saturday, against France on Tuesday in Tala, and then Netherlands in Utrecht. I think it's Saturday of the following week. And it's great to see Hayley Nolan from Kill, former Kill and Kildare underage player, now playing with Crystal Palace. She's back in the squad and has been in the squad for the last few games. Unfortunate to lose out. She had been in the qualifying squads all the way through to the World Cup and then wasn't selected for the World Cup, but she held her own and came through a lot of injuries as well, but is back fully playing with Crystal Palace now. I think she's played all but one of the Crystal Palace games this year, and they are in third place, only 2 points behind second place, and working hard for automatic promotion. So best of luck to Hayley. We've been talking to her during the week, and that interview will appear in Tuesday, maybe even a Monday online, Ger. Yeah, no, definitely. Probably Monday as against the match on Tuesday. Yeah, but there you couldn't ask really too much tougher ties to start off that new campaign there than France and Netherlands, isn't it? Yeah, so yeah, very tough games indeed to start off that particular campaign for Ireland.
Indeed, quickly done to rugby. And,
just on soccer as well. I just want to mention Alan Wood Celtic as well, because I was out there last Friday evening. They had the launch of their Legends in the Woods fundraiser coming up. They have a Premier League select coming over to play.
Unbelievable,
Alan Wood.
It's unbelievable. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and of course, the Everton fan in me is more interested in Yakubu and Jermaine Beckford. There's probably some bigger names there now. And Yap Stam, I think was Yap Stam was the last one.
The legendary Andy Cousins from Leeds.
Yeah, that's. I'm sure all the Leeds fans will be flocking to Alan Wood anyway to see him. But yeah, Alan Wood, obviously some other Brian McClare as well, Jason McAteer, obviously fantastic Irish international as well. So yeah, a lot of star names. It'll be something special as well. I think they have a big gala dinner as well in the KD that night. But Alan Wood also announced their own legends as well. They're going to field 4 teams across the 4 quarters of the match. So they have a mixture of kind of club legends who probably haven't pulled on the boots in a while and current players as well. So and yeah, the whole kind of club there is really buzzing about it at the moment. So yeah, it was a good launch night there over in Glennon's there last weekend, and it'll be the talk of Alan Wood now for the next 3 months or so, building up towards that big game and the arrival of so many big names into Alan Wood.
Did you say Jason McAteer is going to be there?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
Well,
I don't know if Stephen Hodgson will be following him down.
I'm sure if he's there, he'll be telling the story about himself. He was a huge supporter of Jimmy White. And after one of the Irish games, they were in Lily's Bordello. I don't know if it's still there or not, but they were all having it. The Irish players were there, and somebody nudged him and says, "Look, there's Jimmy White." After coming in, so Jason jumps up and he went, "Oh, Jimmy, 180." He'll tell that story. He'll tell great stories about himself, against himself.
They haven't tried to get Stephen Cluxton, have they? Haven't tried to get Stephen Cluxton in, no?
No.
Might take him down.
We were going to say rugby, and the team in white were beaten by fellas from Kildare, Ger.
Yeah, that was something else. Yeah, I got to say that at least Kildare weren't the only team in all white there to capitulate last weekend anyway. But yeah, no, it was a mixture of Ireland being unbelievable and England, God, being an absolute mess at different stages, even for somebody like me who wouldn't watch a huge amount of rugby. I don't get to see many games now, but that was a shambles really from an English point of view. But Ireland were obviously much improved, and Gibson Park was absolutely superb. Clyde Byrne coming back in there had a big impact on her as well, and Jack Crowley as well, of course, too, had a really good game there in the place of Sam Prendergast. But yeah, from their point of view, obviously Jamie Osborne, another try for him. He's had quite the season. He came into the Six Nations having not played for the guts of the 3 months, gone back to the autumn series internationals, but maybe just took him a game or two just to find his feet. But now, yeah, he seems to be really back towards his best again, and he was really good on Saturday as well. Keane Prendergast obviously got a late call up and got a run out with 20 minutes to go, and absolutely did well. He kind of really added on to it as well when he came in too. So yeah, that was Jeremy Lockman as well. God, he's had to wait so long, to have a win over England and Twickenham on his CV as well. That was something special, and their victories and wins like that that players will remember for the rest of their lives. I mean, there'll be, I'm sure, reunions and all that sort of things in 50 years' time that they'll still be talking about that victory as well. So that's something that they'll remember for the rest of their lives for sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure, Richard, you're basking in the glory that a Suncroft man was on the pitch that defeated England in Keane Prendergast. Tenuous link, is it? A tenuous link. Anyway.
Yeah, it is a bit tenuous, but we'll take any link we can get. Don't worry.
Ger, things not going too well for Athy rugby at the moment. They're struggling towards the foot of the table.
Yeah, and it's going to be tricky for them now coming into the last. They actually have to kind of kick their heels at the weekend because Tullow are playing a game against Suttonians, I think it is, away on Saturday, and that's the game at hand that Tullow have. Athy just have the one game to go in the league, and Tullow have 2 games to go. So this one on Saturday, without Athy even being involved, could be have a huge bearing on the Athy season. Tullow are 3 points ahead at the moment with that game at hand. They're to beat Suttonians, albeit they would be kind of would be considered big underdogs to that one. I would think Suttonians are top 3 side in that division, so it would be a big ask for Tullow to go and win there. But if they were to do that, I think Athy will be consigned to that relegation playoff. If Tullow lose that game, then it gets really interesting going into the last round of games there, and Athy are away to the league Whipping Boys, Wexford Wanderers. They decided could have drifted the bottom of the table, so Athy maybe would fancy their chances of getting that win in the last round. But yeah, it could get really interesting now. Tullow have to play Boyne there as well, who I think are the league leaders. I think last time I checked, they're still league leaders there as well. So it could potentially fall Athy's way. They would definitely have the easier of the games in the last round. They play bottom of the table while Tullow play top of the table, but that could be all taken out of the hands of Tullow win on Saturday.
Yeah, and you have 2 great features by Mark Comerford this week, Ger, as well, on the Mangan family from Sallins and Dermot in particular, who's on the Leinster underage setup, and of course the great Johnny Murphy, the great coach. He's talking about the rise of rugby in Kildare.
Yeah, and of course,
we talked about it a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Well, between kind of Newbridge College and Nace, Johnny Murphy would have been involved in the development of a lot of those players coming through, whether they were coming through Nace or the school system as well. So yeah, Johnny is probably the best man to talk to about the current success of Kildare rugby players. So yeah, it was great for Mark to be able to catch up with him. And yeah, Leinster had a media night there last week as well. So there was a lot of players up there for discussion, and Dermot was one of the ones who was talking, and obviously he spoke about his brother Kieran and Dara and what a wonderful year it's been really for the family, and he said that he might be playing for Leinster and be on the fringes of the Ireland squad, but it's very much around Sallins that Dara is the main man there now, having captained Sallins to the Kildare and Leinster championships there last year, and now on the Kildare panel as well. So but another great family, great camaraderie between the brothers as well. It's fantastic to see, and they're obviously very closely linked to the Prendergasts as well. Dermot would have been on the same schools cup team as Sam Prendergast, and the 2 families are very friendly as well. So yeah, there's great friendship as well between the 2 families.
we did an interview with the three wheelers a couple of weeks ago. We'll have to do an interview with the three mangas very, very soon as well.
Yeah.
And
Well,
maybe
that's
the two
another one on your
Prendergast,
list. Yeah.
the Kildare Nationalist, your family newspaper. There was a victory at least for a Kildare team over Cavan at the weekend, because Liffey Celtics beat Cavan Eagles in basketball and brought them right back into the, I suppose, the playoff hopes.
Yeah, they leapfrog Cavan in favour, I think now, so they're into a playoff position with a couple of games to go. So it's been a bit of an inconsistent season for them, up and down. But yeah, that was a big win. So the couple of games to come now. But yeah, the division there, obviously, I think the 8 teams they went to a one-game playoff. So there's still plenty to play for Liffey Celtics, and if they hit form at the right time, then a season which at times has appeared to be going absolutely nowhere, all of a sudden they could be right in the hunt for silverware. So yeah, there's a lot of big games there to come for them.
Absolutely. And we were talking about rugby and how well it's going in Kildare, but what about professional boxing? And the latest recruit to the pro scene, Aidan Byrne, had his debut up in Ballybuffet in Finn Valley Centre in Ballybuffet on Saturday night. Won all 4 rounds, Ger, and he's up and running. First pro fight victory under his belt, if I can get it out.
Yeah, from the pictures I saw there must have been nobody left in Kilcullen at all there last weekend, because I think a fair chunk of the town had headed up to Donegal to support Aidan. Yeah, so great. It was great, Pat, to have that link that you have there with Niall Barish as well in Unit 3 there as well. And obviously Aidan has moved on from his amateur ranks with Kilcullen Boxing Club, where he was a hugely talented and successful amateur boxer, and David O'Brien was involved there as well. I saw him in the picture after the fight, so good that link is kept there. But obviously Unit 3 are kind of the home of Kildare boxing now as well, albeit there are other places as well around the county too that are producing professional boxers. But Unit 3 there have obviously Aidan now as well, making his debut. Kelsey Leonard has done superbly well, and then of course we have the return of Gary Cully, and very much looking forward to reading your interview when you get to catch up with him before his returning fight on March 14th.
Yeah, we have exclusive news then here on the podcast this week, because Kelsey Leonard will fight again on Saturday, the 4th of April, in the National Stadium. It's against Elaine Harrison. There it is, just be posted up there. Elaine Harrison from Mayo. It's a featherweight title, and it's the first time ever that 2 Irish females will meet in a professionally sanctioned bout. So we'll talk to Kelsey in a few weeks about that. So that's Kelsey Leonard versus Elaine Harrison in the National Basketball Stadium. The National Boxing Stadium on Saturday, the 4th of April, and in about 3 weeks' time, around the 19th or 20th of, I think it's around the 20th, maybe, or 21st of March, Gary Cully will make his return to the ring as well. So all coming from Unit 3, as I say. So well done to Niall Barrett and all of there. He just seems to be throwing them all in every week, Ger, and they're coming out on top. And we wish Niall continuous success. We wish Aidan continued success as well, and we'll be looking forward to talking to Kelsey and indeed Gary over the next couple of weeks. What have we got? Athletics, another full page of activity there from your great friend in the athletics world, Ger.
Yeah, well, I suppose a lot of us looking forward to a really big weekend on the athletics calendar in Ireland, the National Indoor Championships.
The 1, 2, 3.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's great to see there's huge television coverage as well. Virgin Media, I think, are covering both days, certainly a large chunk of both days. And I think for anybody who was really interested, they can go on YouTube and see coverage of the entirety of both of those 2 days. But it looks like it's going to be a sellout there, certainly on the Sunday anyway, and the huge buzz around Irish athletics over the last kind of a couple of years, and that's just growing, and there's real interest growing in it, and some of the athletes now are turning into real stars as well, which can only be good for encouraging the next generation along. And yeah, there's a couple of Kildare athletes who will go there hopeful, and hopefully we'll get a medal or two maybe to bring back Kildare from those national championships. And
looking forward to the 4-legged racing as well. What I got, Cheltenham is only about 3 weeks away now, is it, or 2 weeks away?
Less, yes, 2.5 weeks. Yeah, is it not? Yeah, 2 weeks, and 2.5 weeks. Thereabouts. Of course, the big news across the water was Constitution Hill.
Yeah,
has pulled out, but that could have a knock-on effect in different races that maybe could impact Mark Walsh down the line when it trickles along down the line. But Mark was the winner again in Meath last weekend, so it's still up in the air whether he will actually get back to file into the Gold Cup itself. I suppose the longer it goes on, maybe the less sure it's going to actually happen. It seems straight after the DRF that it will be a certainty, but still no announcement that he will be supplemented into that Gold Cup with back to file. So. Yeah, I'd say Mark is probably hanging on anxiously, but meanwhile he's just racking up the winners elsewhere as well. So he's going very well, and they were right into the Cheltenham preview season. I know Castledermot GAA have a big preview
That's
night
right.
on
Yeah.
Saturday evening as well for anybody maybe who's not going to the Kildare match. They'll be able to get down to Crookstown in there, and they have a fabulous lineup there, including last year's Gold Cup winning trainer Gavin Cromwell and also Joseph O'Brien as well. So just amongst others as well. So that's a very good lineup.
And Marty
Morrissey, yeah, Marty Morrissey.
Marty.
Rob Connison is on MC duty there as well. So yeah, Marty. Marty would probably pop his head on. He was there last year and he popped in as well. So yeah, always good to see Marty.
Yeah, Marty's having another week in October over in the Sun as well. So plenty of he might, maybe if we mention him a few times, he might bring us the four of us in.
That's nearly into your age category, Pat. What do I think you'll be the first one up there now of the four of us there anyway? Yeah, that'll be suitable for you. With your new hip, you'll be flying around there for the Marty party.
Well, I'll be hopping anyway. I'll be hopping indeed. Yeah. So yeah,
there was a huge crowd at that preview night. The Castledermot did last year. It's a really good fundraiser that clubs do. You know, you see a few clubs around the country do, because there's huge interest in listening to like the Castledermot one there. I'll just throw up that one, as you can see, like Joseph O'Brien, Gavin Cromwell, Busty Hammond, and Sam Ewing. I mean, people see those names on those posters. Especially posters, by the way, that are made as well as that poster is made, and how slick it looks, and how much it pops, and how well it's designed. I did, yeah. I did, yeah. So, but genuinely, there's it's like last year was packed, and it's just for clubs for next year. Like if people are always looking for, because there's a lot of clubs are looking for something new and something unique. There are people that will go to each one of these around, even if they're the same people there, because they just genuinely really enjoy it. Because it's a great night. You're getting really valuable information. Obviously, with Marty Morrissey is doing the Castledermot one, you have the extra bit of entertainment. So just for clubs to look into, because it is genuinely, they're a great night, great money spitter. I know a bunch of Kildare people going down to Cork on the Friday of the Cork match, and they're going down on the Friday because they want to take in the Gold Cup day of Cheltenham, and then they'll take in the Saturday with the Kildare match on, and then do the Sunday then as well. So that's a good one.
Yeah, they might have to go to Parky Rin, so tell them to keep an eye out for that particular one. And don't forget as well that if you're looking to have a bit of a race meeting, on the 8th of March, Pat Sullivan and the Kildare ladies are having a fundraiser at Meath Racecourse at that particular race meeting. We might get to talk to Pat next week about that, particularly if it's a good victory at the weekend. So we mentioned it last week. It's on the 8th of March. We mentioned it tonight, and we mentioned it again next week. And I'm just looking there behind you, Richard. If Brian Flanagan hangs that particular banner on the door with that man, number 18, Brian Murphy, scoring that famous goal in the 1998 Leinster final, that should be enough to whet any appetite and bring a big crowd out, and a big vocal Kildare crowd out as well. What do you think, Richard?
Couldn't have gone with any other picture this week, could I?
No, indeed.
But before we move on, are we not getting a
before we finish
update from Jer's four-legged friends behind him?
The dogs.
One of them only has 3 legs even, so
He's not running with his voice.
That's why he's got the attitude.
I can see Tommy promoting the podcast this week. We talk all about the 3-legged dog.
He's like Del Boy's old Transavan.
What do you call him? Hoppy?
Skippy, yeah.
Anyway, Richard, you were going to sign off by saying, what are you looking forward to the weekend?
Oh, it has to be Saturday night, doesn't it?
Yeah, Saturday
I know
night.
I said, the head says
Saturday night, and I ain't got no money,
we're all heart here.
Yeah, absolutely. Tommy, the view from the terrace this weekend?
Saturday night.
Ones, is Tommy.
Lads, that's 3 in a row now. I've been absolutely soaked to the skin. There was a lad standing beside me in Cavan, and he follows the pod, and he follows my page stuff, and he just said to me, Jesus, I shouldn't have stood near you. You bring the rain everywhere you go. Saturday night, Pat, I'm obviously looking forward to it. Hopefully people get to Newbridge early. There might be a bit of disruption on the roads.
Yeah, I think we have to warn people. The story is, or apparently the rumor is, or the speculation is that there will be a massive farmer protest in and around Newbridge on Saturday So I think it's a case of getting there early and get the 135 out there as quickly as possible and get to Newbridge before the whole place is chogged up. And unfortunately, that's something that might cause a bit of grief for supporters. But Kildare supporters, get there early, get into the stand, take your spots, and you know what to do. Ger, you're on duty over the weekend for KFM.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to that game on Saturday evening. And you mentioned about supporters getting in there early. Like, I think that is important to kind of Kildare to take over that stand. It's something that's kind of bugged me over the last couple of weeks. And I'm not one to tell supporters to do what to do, because it's very difficult. I mean, really, you're talking about, to be sure of your spot there sitting in the stand, you want to be there kind of for a big game like this, probably definitely an hour and a half before the game. And even kind of slightly disappointed about the turnout from Kildare supporters last week for the hurlers, but again, I mean, it's totally understandable when you consider the cost of bringing a family along, and then obviously the weekend when there's a football game on too away as well in Cavan as well, it can be very difficult. So totally understand that. But yeah, anybody who's going along, I mean, do come in a little bit earlier. You can have a drink there in the bar. Obviously the bar is open as well if that's your thing as well, and if there's any match on beforehand as well, that's be on the television inside in the bar as well, and then just get your spot in the stand, because it that stand has been overtaken by Derry supporters and Clare supporters really in the last couple of weeks, certainly front bus anyway.
And Offaly
as well, yeah. So we want to see that stand kind of, and that's only one part of the ground as well. So I mean, it's not to be all and all. It's just where I'm kind of focused.
Oh, but it is one part of the ground, but you're absolutely 100% right. And those videos of the Derry crowd hanging over the edge and obviously rightly clapping their team off, that was played on bloody off the ball, and the guys in Smaller Fish were talking about it, and they played the audio back to it. You're 100% right, and I'll be hammering out during the week to try to get people in early. But we should be trying to get them in and take over those middle sections of the stand and get in and let's be aggressively controlled on Saturday night. I want to hear. I say, lads, let's make this.
The terrace, you're no good.
I tell you one thing. I'll bring you over to terrace for a night, Richard, and you'll see exactly what it's like over there. And then everyone, but let's. I swear to the lads, if anybody,
we should await this championship game in the summer.
Don't forget, Tommy. The RT are covering that game as well as KFM as an RT TV. So if you get underneath the broadcasting box over there, you never know. Marty might be spitting out at you.
That's too central for me, Pat. I'm again on the 45 in town end. It's lads. Let's just again, if people can possibly, I'll be as loud as possible and just get in and get it all over these Meath lads, because we have to make this a really uncomfortable place to be.
Cheers, lads. We shouldn't have to encourage people to go. Surely this is.
We don't. The crowds have been good, but we need to get in and take over that stand again. The crowds have been excellent. Take over that stand again and get in and lads. It's Meath. Let's get stuck into them. Come on.
What a way to end. Let's end on a positive note. Well done, Tommy. And thanks to Tommy. Thanks to Richard. Thanks to Ger as well. I'm Pat Costello. That's been our podcast. We look forward to talking to you next week.